Commander Oliver Chin sat alone in his small apartment on the outskirts of New Seattle, staring at his computer screen. The room was dark except for the blue light coming from the monitor. Outside his window, rain fell slowly, and the city lights flickered in the distance. He was 53 years old now, and life had not been kind to him in recent years. 23 years ago, Oliver had been a proud member of the Earth Defense Force. He wore his uniform with honor and worked hard every single day. His colleagues respected him, and his superiors noticed his dedication and loyalty. He had dreams back then. He wanted to become an admiral, to lead fleets of ships across the stars, and to protect humanity from any danger that might come from the darkness of space. But things changed quickly. The world changed. People changed. And Oliver's dreams began to fade away. When he turned 50, the military decided to retire him. They said he was too old for active duty. They said younger officers could do the job better. They said the future belonged to a new generation. Oliver tried to argue, but nobody listened. He had spent more than 2 decades serving his country, and in the end it meant nothing. He was simply a relic, a leftover from an older time. They gave him a small pension and a nice medal, but no real respect. No real recognition. Nobody called him anymore. Nobody asked for his advice. He became invisible. Now Oliver worked small jobs to pay his rent. Sometimes he helped companies with their security systems. Sometimes he taught young students about military history. But the money was never enough. His apartment was small and old. The furniture was broken in places. The kitchen had only basic things. He could barely afford to eat well. Every day felt the same as the last one. Every day felt empty. That night, Oliver did what he always did. He sat at his computer and looked at auction websites. He liked to browse through strange things for sale. Broken machines, old equipment, forgotten technology. Most of it was useless, but it made him feel less alone somehow. It gave him something to do in the long evenings. As he scrolled through one particular website called Derelict Deals, something caught his eye. A spaceship. An actual spaceship listed for sale. The price was $5. Oliver laughed at first. $5? That was impossible. Ships cost millions. Billions even. This had to be a mistake. Or a scam. Probably a scam. He read the description carefully. The ship was called the Wanderer. It was a medium-sized cargo vessel, about 100 meters long. According to the listing, it was still functional. All systems were working. The hull was intact. The engines were operational. The life support was stable. It seemed too good to be true. Oliver checked the inspection report. Most of it was blank or incomplete. The seller had left very little information about the ship's condition. There was no picture. No video. The seller's name was hidden behind an anonymous account. Red flags were everywhere. But Oliver's heart was racing now. His hands were shaking. Part of him wanted to believe this was real. He read the listing one more time. $5. Just $5. Maybe it was broken down. Maybe it needed repairs. Maybe nobody else wanted it. Maybe the seller just wanted to get rid of it quickly. Maybe this was his chance. His chance to have something real again. Something that mattered. Oliver thought about it for 2 hours. He made himself coffee. He walked around his apartment. He looked out the window at the rain. Part of him knew this was probably a waste of time and money. But another part of him felt alive for the first time in years. Hope was waking up inside him. Hope that maybe, just maybe, something good could happen. Finally, he made his decision. He went to his bank account and checked his balance. He had $32.47 to his name. He could afford the $5. He could definitely afford that. With shaking fingers, he entered his payment information and placed the bid. The website immediately showed a message. Congratulations. You have won the auction for the Wanderer. Payment received. Delivery will occur at Dock 12, Earth Station 7 within 48 hours. Oliver sat back in his chair. He had actually done it. He had bought a spaceship. An actual spaceship. He could not believe it. He laughed out loud, alone in his apartment, feeling like he had won the lottery. The next day, Oliver went to Earth Station 7. The station was a massive structure floating above the planet, filled with ships of all sizes. Dock 12 was in the older section, where they kept forgotten vessels and old cargo ships. As Oliver walked through the corridors, his excitement grew. When he finally saw the Wanderer, he stopped in his tracks. It was beautiful. The hull was dark gray with faded markings along the sides. The ship looked tired, like it had traveled many miles across empty space. There were dents and scratches on the metal. But it was real. It was actually real. Oliver walked around it slowly, touching the cool metal with his hands. He felt like he was dreaming. An official from the dock came over to him with papers to sign. Oliver signed everything without reading it carefully. He just wanted to get inside the ship. The official handed him the keys and a security code, then left. Oliver stood alone in front of the Wanderer, hardly believing this was happening to him. He entered the ship through the main airlock. The interior was dark and quiet. Dust covered everything. Oliver walked through the empty corridors, his footsteps echoing off the metal walls. He found the bridge. He found the engine room. He found the cargo hold. Everything was empty. Everything was silent. Then, as Oliver explored deeper into the cargo hold, he heard something. A sound. A movement. Something was there in the darkness, hidden behind some old containers. Oliver's heart began to pound. He moved closer, slowly and carefully. In the shadow of the cargo hold, two large golden eyes opened. They glowed like fire in the darkness. Oliver froze. He could not move. He could not breathe. Something huge began to move in the shadows. And then a voice spoke. A voice so deep and ancient that it seemed to shake the very metal of the ship. Finally, the voice said, "Someone has come." Oliver did not know what to do. He did not know what was in his ship. But whatever it was, his life was about to change forever. Oliver's body went rigid. Every muscle in his body became tight and hard. His mind screamed at him to run, to leave the ship, to call for help. But his feet did not move. He stood there in the darkness of the cargo hold, frozen like a statue, staring at the two golden eyes that burned like dying flames. The creature moved slowly out of the shadows. Oliver could see its shape now. It was massive, huge, bigger than anything he had ever seen before. The creature had a body covered in scales. The scales were a dull gold color, faded and worn by time. The creature had 4 thick legs, each one as tall as Oliver's whole body. It had a long tail that moved behind it, sweeping across the dusty floor. And on its head it had horns. Long, curved horns that pointed backward like spears. It was a dragon. A real dragon. A living, breathing dragon standing right in front of him. Oliver had read about dragons in books. He had seen pictures in museums. But nothing had prepared him for this moment. Dragons were supposed to be myths. They were supposed to be stories from old times. They were not supposed to be real. They were not supposed to be standing in the cargo hold of his newly purchased spaceship. The dragon's head was very close to Oliver now. Its breath was hot and smelled like metal and fire. The creature's eyes looked down at him with intelligence. With understanding. With something that seemed almost like emotion. The dragon opened its mouth and Oliver could see rows of sharp teeth, each one the size of his hand. "Do not be afraid, human," the dragon said. Its voice was deep and slow, like distant thunder rolling across mountains. "I will not hurt you. Not yet, anyway." Oliver managed to speak, though his voice came out small and weak. What are you? How are you alive?" The dragon pulled its head back slightly. It sat down on its massive rear legs, curling its tail around its body. From this position, it was only slightly taller than Oliver. The creature's golden eyes never left Oliver's face. "My name is Drake," the dragon said slowly. "I am 53 years old, which is quite young for my kind. I was born on a planet called Valerian, in the outer reaches of this galaxy. My kind lived there for thousands of years, but those days are long gone. All of my people are dead now. I am the last one. The very last dragon in this entire universe." Oliver listened with his mouth open. This seemed impossible. Everything about this seemed impossible. Drake continued his story. "I was captured 50 years ago by a human named Victor Krauss. He was a powerful man with a lot of money and very few morals. He wanted a dragon. He wanted to use me as a weapon. He wanted to use me to intimidate people and to help him control others through fear. He kept me in the cargo hold of his ship. He kept me locked in chains. He fed me only enough to keep me alive. For 50 years, I have been trapped here in this dark place, alone and angry." The dragon's voice grew quieter and more sad. "Victor Krauss is dead now. He died many years ago. But nobody thought to check his old ship. Nobody remembered that I was here. This ship was simply abandoned and eventually sold at auction. And that is how you came to find me, human. That is how a creature like me ended up as a surprise bonus with your $5 spaceship." Oliver felt something strange happening inside him. Fear was still there, but something else was growing. Sympathy. Understanding. This creature had suffered just like Oliver had suffered. This creature had been forgotten just like Oliver had been forgotten. "Your name is Oliver, correct?" Drake asked. "I heard the dock official speak your name when you arrived." "Yes," Oliver said, his voice growing stronger now. "My name is Oliver Chin. I was a commander in the Earth Defense Force. I served for more than 20 years, but they retired me. They said I was too old. They said I was useless. I've been alone ever since, living a small life, waiting for something to matter again. Drake nodded his large head slowly. We are more alike than you know, a human called Oliver. We are both old. We are both forgotten. We are both alone in this universe. Perhaps this is not an accident. Perhaps the universe brought us together for a reason. Over the next few days, something remarkable happened between Oliver and Drake. The old commander brought food to the dragon. He brought medicine for Drake's wounds, which had never healed properly during his 50 years of imprisonment. He talked to Drake for hours, telling the creature about his life, his dreams, his disappointments. Drake told Oliver about his homeland. He told him about flying through purple skies. He told him about ancient cities built by his people long ago. He told him about the taste of real food, not the stale things he had been fed by Victor Krauss. He told him about honor and loyalty and what it meant to be a warrior. One evening, Oliver brought a deck of old playing cards he had found in the captain's quarters. He showed Drake how to play. The dragon was clumsy at first, his large claws not suited for holding small cards. But he learned quickly. Very quickly. They played for hours, and Drake even seemed to smile in his own dragon way. Slowly, the anger that burned in Drake's eyes began to fade. It was replaced by something warmer. Trust, friendship, understanding. The dragon was still scarred by his years of captivity. Still angry about what had been done to him. But he was no longer completely alone. And Oliver felt something he had not felt in many years. He felt needed. He felt important. He felt like his life had purpose again. This strange creature, this ancient dragon, needed him. And he needed this dragon. Together, in the dusty cargo hold of the Wanderer, an unlikely friendship was born. An old human and an ancient dragon, both forgotten by the world, had found each other. And somehow that made all the difference. 3 months after Oliver found Drake, everything changed. The warning came through every communication channel on Earth at the same time. It was a message from deep space transmitted by automated defense satellites. A message that made every human on the planet stop and listen. Unknown hostile force approaching Earth. Time to arrival, 72 hours. All military personnel report to duty stations immediately. Oliver was in the captain's quarters of the Wanderer when he heard the announcement. He felt his blood turn cold. He had not been a soldier for 3 years, but instinct took over immediately. His hands started to shake. His mind began to work through military protocols and defense procedures. He ran to find Drake. The dragon was in the cargo hold as usual, but he was standing now, not resting. Drake's golden eyes were bright and alert. The dragon had already heard the announcement through the ship's communication system. What is happening? Drake asked. What is this hostile force? Oliver explained what little he knew. 72 hours ago, long-range sensors had detected a massive fleet approaching the solar system. The fleet was large. Very large. Early estimates suggested more than 500 ships. This was not a small attack. This was an invasion. The military quickly released more information. The hostile force was identified as the Zithian Collective. They were an insectoid species, native to a distant part of the galaxy. They had conquered 12 other star systems in the past 20 years. They were known for being ruthless and efficient. They left no survivors. They took no prisoners. When the Zithians conquered a world, they either enslaved the population or destroyed it completely. Oliver turned on every news channel he could find. Images appeared on screens all across Earth. People were panicking. Some were preparing to flee. Some were gathering supplies. Some were simply sitting in shock, unable to believe what was happening. Governments were calling emergency meetings. Military forces were mobilizing. The United Nations was calling for unity and strength. But Oliver could see the fear. He could see it in every face. Humanity had been at peace for a long time. They had grown soft. The military was smaller now than it used to be. The weapons were older. The leaders were younger and had never fought a real war. Oliver knew what was coming. He knew what real war looked like. And he knew that Earth was not ready. We have to do something, Drake said. His voice was strong and determined. We cannot simply wait to be conquered or destroyed. Oliver nodded slowly. I know. But what can we do? You are one dragon. I am one old man. We cannot fight an entire fleet. But even as he said it, Oliver was thinking. Planning. His military mind was working, searching for solutions. Then an idea began to form. It was crazy. It was probably impossible. But it might work. Oliver went to the communications room and sent a message to Earth Command. He identified himself and explained the situation. He told them that he was coming to join the defense effort. He also mentioned that he had something very unusual that might be useful. The response came quickly. They wanted to see him. They wanted to see what he had. Oliver and Drake left the ship and traveled to Earth Defense Headquarters. The facility was in chaos. Soldiers were running everywhere. Commanders were shouting orders. Screens showed the approaching Zithian fleet, getting closer every hour. The situation was getting worse by the minute. When Oliver walked into the command center with Drake following behind him, everyone stopped. Every single person in the room froze. They stared at the dragon. Some people tried to run. Some people reached for weapons. Alarms started to sound. But Oliver stepped forward and raised his hands. Wait, this is Drake. He is with me. He is not an enemy. He is an ally. A young general named Rebecca Patel stepped out of the crowd. She looked at Oliver and then at Drake. Her hand was on her weapon, but she did not draw it. Commander Chin, she said. What is the meaning of this? Where did you find a dragon? Oliver explained everything quickly. He told her about the ship. He told her about finding Drake in the cargo hold. He told her about the friendship they had developed. And most importantly, he explained what Drake could do. The Zithians are controlled by a hive mind, Oliver explained. One central intelligence that connects to all of them. If we could disrupt that connection, the entire fleet would lose coordination. They would panic. They would become confused. We could defeat them. General Patel looked skeptical. And how exactly would we do that? Drake can do it, Oliver said. Dragons have psychic abilities. Ancient abilities from thousands of years ago. Drake's mind is powerful enough to reach across space. He can shatter the hive mind connection if he gets close enough. The general studied Drake carefully. The dragon lowered his head slightly in acknowledgement. His golden eyes met the general's eyes with intelligence and strength. If we give you a fighter ship, General Patel said slowly, can you get close enough to the Zithian flagship? Yes, Oliver answered. We can do it. General Patel was quiet for a moment. Then she made a decision. Prepare the fastest fighter ship we have. Give Commander Chin whatever he needs. If this works, we might actually have a chance. If it doesn't work, it will not matter anyway. The next 48 hours were a blur of preparation. Oliver trained with the ship's systems. Drake prepared mentally for what he would have to do. They went over the plan again and again. It was risky. It was dangerous. But it was their only hope. When the Zithian fleet arrived at Earth's orbit, humanity's forces were waiting. But they were not fighting alone. Oliver flew the fighter ship with Drake in the back compartment, his mind already reaching out toward the enemy fleet. As the battle began, Oliver pushed the ship forward, directly toward the massive Zithian flagship. The creature that had been forgotten by his own people and the man who had been forgotten by his own world flew together toward the light. They flew toward their destiny. They flew toward either salvation or destruction. But they flew together, and that made all the difference. The Zithian flagship hung in space like a massive insect made of metal and flesh. It was easily 5 kilometers long, with armor plating that shimmered in the distant light of the sun. Smaller ships flew around it like servants attending to a queen. The entire structure seemed to pulse with an alien intelligence, as if the ship itself was alive and thinking. Oliver's fighter ship was tiny compared to the flagship. It was like a mosquito flying toward a mountain. The small vessel shook as enemy fire passed nearby, explosions blooming in space all around them. Oliver pushed the ship faster, weaving between the shots, moving toward his target with absolute determination. In the back compartment, Drake felt the vibrations of the ship. The dragon was ready. He had spent the last 2 days preparing his mind for this moment. He had meditated. He had centered himself. He had accepted what was about to happen. Drake's consciousness began to expand. It grew outward from the ship like invisible waves traveling through space. Oliver could feel it happening. The air in the cockpit seemed to crackle with energy. The instruments on the dashboard flickered and dimmed as Drake's psychic power grew stronger and stronger. The dragon was reaching out across the vacuum of space, searching for the hive mind. Searching for the central intelligence that controlled all 500 Zithian ships. It was a vast consciousness, ancient and powerful and utterly alien. Drake could feel it now. He could feel the connection between the flagship and every other ship in the fleet. I can feel them, Drake said through the communication system. His voice sounded different now, deeper and more resonant, as if it was coming from somewhere very far away. I can feel the hive mind. It is vast. It is so vast, Oliver. So much larger than I expected. You can do this, Oliver said, his hands gripping the controls of the fighter. I know you can do this, Drake. The Zithian flagship suddenly changed course. It was turning, rotating to face Oliver's small ship directly. The massive vessel understood the threat now. It understood that something important was happening. On the flagship's hull, weapon systems began to charge, preparing to fire on the little fighter that dared to approach. But Drake was already acting. His psychic attack began. It started slowly at first, like a gentle push against the hive mind. But then it grew stronger. Faster. More intense. Drake was not trying to destroy the hive mind. He was trying to tear it apart from the inside. He was injecting 50 years of pain into it. 50 years of imprisonment and rage and sadness. 50 years of loneliness and anger and suffering. The Zithian ships began to hesitate. Their coordinated movements became confused and uneven. The hive mind was experiencing something it had never experienced before. It was experiencing individual emotions. It was feeling pain. Yes, Drake breathed through the communication system. Yes, I can feel them breaking apart. The connection is weakening. Oliver pushed the fighter ship even closer to the flagship. Alarms were screaming in the cockpit. Red warning lights covered the entire dashboard. The ship was taking damage from enemy fire. Hull breaches were forming. The life support systems were beginning to fail. But Oliver did not change course. He kept flying toward the massive vessel. Drake's attack grew more powerful. The dragon was pouring everything into it now. All of his strength. All of his power. All of his ancient knowledge and ability. The psychic waves were so strong that they began to affect the fighter ship. Oliver's nose started to bleed. His vision blurred. But he stayed conscious. He stayed in control. The Zithian flagship shook violently. Its weapon systems began to fire randomly, shooting in all directions, unable to maintain proper targeting. The other ships in the fleet were scattering now, moving away from each other without any coordination or purpose. The hive mind was crumbling. The central intelligence was shattering. Drake pushed harder, deeper. He was not just attacking the hive mind now. He was connecting with it. He was showing it something. He was showing it what it meant to be an individual. What it meant to feel fear and loneliness and pain. What it meant to suffer. I can feel them, Drake said, and his voice was now almost a whisper. I can feel them all. Every single one of them. There are so many. So different from what I expected. They are not evil. They are just controlled. Just trapped like I was trapped. Oliver understood what was happening. Drake was not just destroying the hive mind. Drake was changing it, transforming it, showing the Zithians what it meant to be free. But the effort was costing Drake everything. Oliver, the dragon's voice came through the communication system, much weaker now. I am running out of strength. I cannot hold this much longer. You need to leave this place. You need to fly away now. No, Oliver said. I am not leaving you. I am going to stay here with you. You must go, Drake said. His voice was becoming fainter and fainter. This is something I must do alone. This is something I have always known I would do. From the moment you found me in the darkness, I knew this was my purpose. This is why I survived all those years. This is why I was waiting for you. Oliver felt tears running down his face. He knew Drake was right. He knew what was about to happen. And he knew there was nothing he could do to stop it. Drake's consciousness expanded outward one final time. It grew and grew and grew, becoming so large and so powerful that it filled the entire space around the ships. It was like a star exploding, sending light and energy in all directions. The Zithian flagship began to break apart. The smaller ships were thrown into chaos and confusion. Thank you, Drake said, his voice now barely a whisper. Thank you for giving me friendship. Thank you for giving me purpose. Thank you for giving me meaning in the end. Oliver watched the instruments as Drake's signature began to fade. The dragon was not dying. Drake was transforming into something else. Something beyond physical form. Something that existed in the spaces between stars. Something eternal. The Zithian fleet lost all cohesion. Without the hive mind controlling them, they became confused and disorganized. They began to retreat, fleeing back toward their home systems. Humanity's forces, seeing the enemy in disarray, pressed forward and pushed them back into deep space. The battle was won. Oliver managed to turn the damaged fighter ship around and fly it back toward Earth. But the cockpit was silent now. Drake was gone. The dragon had given everything to save humanity. Everything except memory. The memory of a friendship that had changed two forgotten souls forever. The fighter ship landed at Earth Defense Headquarters with smoke pouring from its engines. Oliver was barely conscious when the medical team pulled him from the cockpit. His body was burned. His mind was broken. He had been connected to Drake's psychic attack so strongly that part of him had been torn away. For 3 weeks, Oliver lay in a hospital bed. Doctors did everything they could to help him. They bandaged his wounds. They gave him medicine. They ran tests on his brain. But nothing could fully heal him. Nothing could bring Drake back. When Oliver finally left the hospital, the world had changed. Humanity had won the war. The Zithian collective had retreated to their home systems and made no more attacks. Earth was safe. But the cost had been high. Thousands of soldiers had died in the battle. And the dragon who had saved them all was gone. The government offered Oliver everything. Money. A house. A position of honor. They wanted to make him a hero. They wanted to put his face on posters and tell stories about him. But Oliver refused most of it. He only asked for one thing, the Wanderer. They gave him the spaceship without question. Oliver returned to the Wanderer alone. The ship felt empty now. Empty in a way that had nothing to do with the physical space. Drake's presence was gone. The cargo hold where the dragon had lived for 50 years was just a dark, dusty room again. Oliver spent days searching through the ship. He went through every compartment. Every storage room. Every hidden corner. He was looking for something. Some kind of message. Some kind of sign that Drake was still here somewhere. Finally, deep in the ship's computer system, he found it. The message was encrypted in a way that only Drake could have created it. It took Oliver hours to decode it. But when he finally opened the file, Drake's voice filled the speakers. It was not the deep, rumbling voice of the physical dragon. It was something different. Something that sounded like it was coming from very far away. Oliver, the voice said. If you are hearing this message, then I am no longer with you in body. But I am not gone. I am here. I am everywhere. I am woven into this ship. I am part of the systems. I am part of the metal and the circuits and the power that makes this vessel move through space. Oliver sat down heavily. He felt tears running down his face again. I told you that I would transform, Drake's voice continued. I told you that I would become something new. This is what I meant. My consciousness did not die in that battle. It evolved. It changed into something that can exist without a physical form. I am no longer bound by flesh and blood. I am free in a way I have never been free before. The message went on to explain Drake's final request. The dragon wanted Oliver to take the Wanderer beyond human space. He wanted them to explore the outer reaches of the galaxy. He wanted them to search for others like them. Others who had been forgotten by the universe. Others who had been abandoned or imprisoned or left behind. There are many worlds out there, Drake's voice said. Many creatures like us. Forgotten beings who have lost hope. Second chances waiting to be discovered. I want to help them. I want to show them that there is more to existence than suffering. That friendship is possible. That even the most unlikely bonds can save worlds. Will you help me, Oliver? Drake asked. Will you be my captain one more time? Will you fly the ship to the edges of the known universe and beyond? Will you help me find all those lost souls and give them a chance? Oliver did not answer immediately. He sat in the silence of the empty ship and thought about everything that had happened. He thought about how far he had come. He thought about how a $5 purchase had changed his entire life. He thought about the dragon who had been his only friend. Then Oliver walked to the captain's chair in the bridge. He sat down and activated the ship's systems. The Wanderer hummed to life around him. The engines began to warm up. The navigation systems came online. Yes, Oliver said aloud, knowing Drake could hear him. Yes, I will help you. Let's go find them. The Wanderer rose into the Earth's atmosphere. It climbed higher and higher, leaving the planet behind. Oliver set a course for deep space, toward regions that had never been fully explored by humans. Toward the unknown. As the ship broke free from Earth's gravity and pointed its nose toward the stars, Oliver felt something he had not felt in a very long time. He felt alive. He felt purposeful. He felt like his life finally mattered. Behind him, Earth grew smaller and smaller. The blue marble that had been his home for 53 years became just a bright dot among countless other lights. And ahead of him, the infinite universe stretched out, full of mysteries and dangers and possibilities. We are coming, Oliver said to the darkness of space. If you are out there and you need help, we are coming to find you. The ship accelerated, jumping to faster-than-light speed. It left human space behind and entered regions unknown. Drake's voice came through the speakers one more time, and it sounded happy. Thank you, my friend, Drake said. Thank you for not leaving me alone when you could have. Thank you for believing in me. We will find many adventures together. We will help many creatures find hope again. This is not an ending, Oliver. This is a beginning. And with that, the wanderer disappeared into the stars, leaving behind only a trail of light and the memory of two forgotten souls who had saved a world together. Their story was not over. Their story was just beginning.